What's up, everybody? We're going to be talking about the art of the U-shaped racer. So, on the surface, these 6 horses look like very similar horses. If you look at their final positions, right? They're all fairly huge. Frostein's got a little bit more of a V going on, but for the most part, they're very U-shaped racers. All slightly different calibers, very similar in different ways. And that's what we're going to kind of break down here. So the first one here is Main Event, Z22 Buterin Elite, almost 5 ETH profit. If you look at the old odds data, very consistent odds across the board, and very similar, first through fourths as there is 9th through 12ths, slightly leaning on the 12th end of the spectrum. Horse is currently sitting in Class 3. Looks like its last race was today. But if we go to its horseshoe chart, what we can see is Main Event is coming in first and last quite often in the majority of distances. And by majority, I mean pretty much all of them. There's very little going on in the middle here. If you run 4,000 races, you're going to get 50 or so, 6th, 7th, 8th, 5ths. But it's essentially able to win or lose at any distance. So this is good because you don't have to worry about so much who's in the race. You don't have to worry so much about class management because the horse is going to manage itself. But with the new point system, it does negatively impact these horses quite a bit, just because they're not going to balance themselves out like they once could. Just because if they're winning exactly as many races as they're losing, they're going to push themselves up in class and then be racing stronger competition. So traditionally these horses were nice because you didn't have to try too hard, but at the same time, now it's a little bit more challenging. And as you can see, almost 5 ETH profit at only 35% win rate. So that's something that you normally trade off as well as percent win rate when you're going with these natural U horses. Vanilla Bean was a long time one of my favorites, still is. Very similar racing profile. Odds are slightly lower, and we can probably attribute that to being a Z10 Legendary versus a Z22 Elite. Is it 22, right? Yeah, 22. As bad, my bad. But strong win rate, right? 22%, 16.5. If we go to its horseshoe, we can see that it performs slightly worse at 1,000 meters. And what I'm willing to bet what was happening here was, if we look at its racing history, which I'm not going to do in this video, Vanilla Bean's an old horse, so you are able to race in Class 1 races even if you're in Class 5. So I'm willing to bet that to maintain class, what they were doing was they were going up to Class 5 or Class 1 and racing against stronger horses at this distance. For the vast majority, it can pretty much race at any distance and win or come in last. There's not a whole lot going on in the middle here, even though it's been raced very thoroughly. Once again, these horses traditionally could maintain their own class. Looks like Vanilla Bean might be able to hold class at 1,000 or 1,400, but they're easier horses to run, but they're much harder to keep profitable. And then same thing, over 5 ETH profit with half the races, but only 35% ROI, which is still great. 5 ETH profit, 5 ETH profit. You just have to grind out more races to become just as profitable. Then Diamonds, the new U-shaped monster on the track. This is Z2 Legendary. So you look at the odds data here, the odds are a little bit higher than what we're seeing with Vanilla Bean. Big difference is Vanilla Bean has a lot of racing done at Class 4 and Class 5. Now, as you can see here, 90% flames, to where Diamonds has never seen Class 4 and Class 5. So if Diamonds had Class 4 and Class 5 races, these would be probably in the 6s and 5s. So similar 1%. You can also see a 35% place in show. What are we looking at here? 30 and 35, 25 and 21, or 31, yeah. So very similar in many ways. Because it's racing in Class 1, it's racing in higher buy-ins. We're looking at, 700 races, almost 3 ETH profit. So once it catches up to, say, a Vanilla Bean and a main event, good possibility that it's winning more money. And if we look at its horseshoe chart, it's very similar to the other horses. It does race in the big races at sprints, I do know. Just because I know the owner. He'll challenge any horse at any distance. And it does prefer 1600. Looks like it does pretty well at 2200 and 2000 as well. But for the most part, if he was to keep running this horse, it would be a little bit more naturally across here. The fact that it can't race in class 4 and 5 does change this middle distribution a little bit. If we were to look at the other horses, which, let's just pull up Vanilla Bean because I know Vanilla Bean's been there before. And we bring up class 1, 2, and 3. It's a little bit better than what we're seeing with diamonds. Just do class 1, class 2. Yeah, so Vanilla Beans still maintain that hard U unless we get kind of out here. So very similar horses in the way that they perform. Very similar profitabilities, and able to kind of go anywhere and do its thing. Now if we go to a horse like Trash Donkey, whose race profile looks similar, lot more 12ths than we saw with the other horses. The Vanilla Bean's pretty even, and then main event's got a little bit more 12ths going on. But if you look, the Z, we're talking about the Z22 Elite Butte and a Z22 exclusive Buterin. So very, very similar bloodlines as Z numbers, breed types. Trash Donkey's a little bit more profitable with a lot less racing. Strong odds, really far away from the middle here. Primarily a sprinter, as we can see. You can see here, only flaming in sprints, and able to flame in sprints at a higher class. So here's a class 3 win. It's a pretty big entry fee. And we go to its horseshoe chart. You're able to see that if it's in its preferred distance, it's winning significantly more than it's coming in 10th, 11th, and 12th. And if we go to its non-preferred distance, it is getting crushed. It's not really finishing top 3 at all, meaning this horse is going to be able to lose points when you want it to lose points. Which means you can race in the division that you want. You're able to maintain its class. Just with the new point system, that becomes a little bit harder and a little bit more costly. Just because you have to deal with, for every win, you have to lose essentially 3 times to make that up. So Princess of Power. Well, I was no Princess of Power. Princess of Power is a super strong horse. Looks very Yui. But if we go to her horseshoe, it tells a slightly different story. So a lot more 10ths, 11ths, and 12ths as sprints. As we transition over to the distance races, she's absolutely crushing it. Everything else is pretty flat. And yeah, another horse that you can run all the way up to class 1 and then bring all the way back down. Looks like she's just been playing in class 1 lately though. 293 points, 120% ROI at 12.5 ETH profit. Man, building a stable with 12 ETH profit, how much fun would that be? And then, as you can see, she's a super strong horse, but she took that 1,000 meter race and lost points. And then Frostine, another horse that I really enjoy, a little bit more of a V shape. And what you're seeing is this is the traditional spike horse, where the further away from 1600 you get, the lower the odds. But 1600 really strong, which means it has a strong distance preference. And if you look at its preferred distance, 5.8, 5.2, 4.5. Really crazy. 200% ROI. And she's only sitting at class 4 right now. Go to a horseshoe. Put her in a sprint race, she's losing points, especially with the new being able to lose points 8th through 12th. And then put her at her preferred distance in the sprints, and it just cleans up. Is able to win. Once again, this is only a Z16 legendary with preferred distance. Still Flames in second, her in class 2, and but she's able to maintain class. So that's really the difference between synthetic U. Frostine, Princess Power Trash Donkey being synthetic U's. You manufacture the U by what races you put them in. Diamonds, Vanilla Bean, and Main Event can't help themselves but U. So natural U's, once again, you don't have to manage them as strongly. You can just kind of throw them in, let them do their thing. They'll fall where they fall. For these distance preference horses, you can manipulate what they're racing against by losing on purpose. So that's kind of something you have to kind of look into when you're buying a horse, because it's a lot easier to win money with a synthetic U, because you can pick your race, pick your buy-in. If you're going in a race that you're most likely to lose, you can pick a cheaper fee. And then if you're going into a race that you're most likely to win, you can pick a more expensive fee and kind of maintain profitability even though you're losing on purpose several times. And then with these horses, it's just really, what's their raw ability looking like and who are they going against. Diamonds is a freak. It beats Crimson Chin. It sprints occasionally when it's its race to win. And then it'll beat some of the best distance horses too. So that's kind of the difference between a synthetic U and natural U. Of course, as always, if you have any questions, reach out.